cases. Welcome back to part 2 of Jimmy Savile's connection to Jeffrey Epstein, and this shit is crazy. So let's just jump straight in where we left off. The document continues as follows. I initially published my findings, stemming from discrete leaks from a secret list provided by the American FBI to the Sunday Times newspaper, and concomitantly discovered that Tony Blair had issued a gagging order to suppress all further discussion of a scandal that would most certainly have brought a swift end to his administration and made Britain's collusion in the destruction of Iraq impossible. The articles I wrote concerning the Operation Ore cover-up and the 100-year blackout order imposed upon the report, EFTA 00103843, concerning the Dunblane massacre of children used and abused by senior Scottish Labour government ministers, can still be found here. Alleged pedophiles at helm of Britain's war machine, massive cover-up. Tony Blair caught protecting elite pedophile ring. Cremation of care, the New World Order and the Dunblane shootings. Dunblane secret documents contain letters by Tory and Labour ministers. All links will be in the bio if you want to view these articles. Follow for more updates. Page 9 of 42. These stories, which also implicated the Attorney General Lord Goldsmith, former NATO boss Lord Robertson, and the Svengali of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown's rise to power, the flamboyant homosexual Peter Mandelson, now Lord Mandelson, were widely publicized on the internet, excited debate within numerous online forums, and inspired Robert Kilroy Silk's former Veritas party to undertake a detailed examination of the extent to which senior and junior ministers close to Gordon Brown were given free license to engage in pedophiliac activities under the protection of the British intelligence services. The Sunday Herald's incendiary story, Child Porn Arrests Too Slow, the 19th of January 2003, written by its Home Affairs correspondent Neil McKay, disappeared rapidly from the internet within weeks of my exposure. McKay's editor, at first cooperative, subsequently refused to answer any further inquiries put to him by myself and the freelance journalist Bob Curley. Each and every letter I sent to the British Home Office, Scotland Yard, and the Sunday Times solicited not one single reply. Lord Robertson, a self-confessed Freemasonic member of Edinburgh's sinister speculative society Lodge, who enjoyed a peculiarly close personal relationship with Thomas Hamilton, the mass murderer of abused children in Dunblane, failed to sue the Sunday Herald for libel and promptly disappeared from public life. Police records revealed that Robertson had helped expedite the process by which the Manchurian candidate, Hamilton, already a convicted child molester with known affiliations to the British elite, was able to obtain gun licenses. Robertson worked in collusion with Michael Forsyth, Secretary of State for Scotland, a fellow speculative Freemason, and Robert Bell, an associate of Malcolm Rifkind, British Foreign Secretary. Robertson, at the behest of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, had a vested interest in wasting children who were beginning to talk. Follow for regular updates. 10 of 42. On the 13th of March 1996, Thomas Hamilton, a former Boy Scout leader, walked into Dunblane Primary School, armed with two 9mm pistols and 2.357 Magnum revolvers. He killed 16 small children and a teacher. The subsequent police investigation revealed that Hamilton had loaded the magazines for his Browning with an alternating combination of fully metal-jacketed and hollow-point ammunition. This horrific event led to the banning of handguns in the UK. How convenient. The judge who conducted the inquiry into the atrocity, during which two teachers claimed to have seen another mysterious man guiding Hamilton onto the premises, was Lord Cullen. Cullen, also a member of the Freemasonic Speculative Society and an associate of Labour Scottish Mafia figures such as Lord Robertson, Tony Blair, John Reid and Gordon Brown, was accused by leading journalists and emergency service personnel of having achieved a cover-up. According to journalist Marcello Mega in the News of the World, the 28th of December 2003, a top Scottish Freemason, former Grand Master Lord Burton, has said that Lord Cullen's inquiry into the Dunblane massacre was a cover-up. Lord Burton says Cullen's inquiry suppressed crucial information to protect high-profile legal figures. Point 2. These high-profile legal figures may belong to a secretive supermason group called the Speculative Society. Lord Burton said, I have learned of an apparent connection between prominent members of the legal establishment involved in the inquiry and the secretive Speculative Society. The society was formed in Edinburgh University through Masonic connections, so I accept that there might be a link by that route. Reportedly, members of the Speculative Society have included Lord Cullen and a number of other judges, sheriffs, and advocates. Point 3. Some of these high-profile people had links to the Queen Victoria School, where gunman Thomas Hamilton was allowed to roam free before the 1996 atrocity. Reportedly, the police are investigating claims that pupils at Queen Victoria School were regularly taken away, and as sexually buzzed. Former Housemaster Glenn Harrison, told the News of the World how he even found Hamilton, 43, creeping around the dormitories at night. He said Hamilton had close links to a top policeman. Glenn was never called to give evidence at the Cullen inquiry. Opening parentheses. Follow for regular updates. 11 of 42. Lord Burton said, I tried repeatedly to raise concerns about the inquiry during my time in the Lords, and I was bullied and threatened by powerful peers loyal to the Conservative government of the day, who warned me of dire consequences if I continued to embarrass them. According to this source, cashed Malcolm Rifkin's friend, and his then chairman of his constituency party at Edinburgh Pentlands, Robert Bell, according to the front page lead of the Edinburgh Evening News on the 23rd of March 1996, sold guns and ammunition to Thomas Hamilton, only a few weeks before the Dunblane massacre, and it was reported he said he would sell him guns again. Glenn Harrison had kept dozens of files from pupils alleging bullying and abuse while he was at the Queen Victoria School, and wrote to parents warning of the dangers in 1991. It led to him being ousted from the school, and just days before he left, police raided his home and confiscated the files. Glenn states that Hamilton had been a friend of Ben Phillip, the senior housemaster at QVS. Mr. Phillip died in December 1993, aged 46, when he fell from a ladder while hanging decorations. Scotland. For William Burns' further elucidation of the cover, Alan Milburn, a close ally of Tony Blair, also resigned dramatically from the senior benches of the Labour Party government shortly after Scotland Yard's anti-paedophile investigation was suppressed by the Blair administration, citing the need to spend more time with my family. For some reason, the abduction of Scottish children for the purpose of rape and murder, always closely linked to senior Labour Party political figures, continues unabated. Pressure on police to release paedophile dossier. Although Labour Supremo Peter Mandelson's alleged role in the kidnapping of young girls and boys for the pleasuring of the European Union's elite commissioners in Brussels was the subject of intense speculation, long before the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, I can now bring to a close all speculation as to the name of Tony Blair's most highly placed and senior politician, who fell not only under the scrutiny of Scotland Yard for crimes against children, but was also identified by the FBI as an active member of the paedophile ring run by Thomas Hamilton. Follow for regular updates. 12 of 42. That name was first revealed to me by Norman Lamont at a private party in Clapham in 1986, during which time I worked as a scriptwriter for the British television media. Lamont later became Chancellor of the Exchequer under John Major's Conservative administration. Following investigations in 2003 on both my and Bob Curley's part, that name cropped up time and time again, and I passed the details to internet journalist Paul Joseph Watson. Gordon Brown is a practicing paedophile whose activities are known not only to the British, American, and Israeli intelligence services, but also by Rupert Murdoch and his senior editor at the Sunday Times. Posted in conspiracy, current affairs, law, news, politics, real history. I tagged 10 Downing Street, Aberdeen, Alan Milburn, Angus Stickler, Anthony Charles Linton Blair, Assistant Director of Children's Social Services, Attorney General Lord Goldsmith, BBC, Ben Phillip, Bob Curley, Bow Street Magistrates Court, Boy Scout, Brighton, British Intelligence Services, Bryn Aylan, Bryn Clwyd, Charles Linton, Child Porn Arrests Too Slow, Chris Spivey, Clwyd, Conservative Party, Counterpunch, Cremation of Care, Current Events, Derek Law, Dorset, Dunblane Massacre, East Cottage, Edinburgh University. Edward Heath, estate of Lord Montague of Bewley, former Grand Master Lord Burton, Freddie Emery Wallace, Giovanni Di Stefano, Glenn Harrison, Gordon Brown, Hampshire County Council, Hove, Ian Greer, Ian Hamilton, John Major, John Reed, Julian Lewis. Leader of Hampshire Council, Lord Advocate for Scotland, Lord Britton, Lord Burton, Lord Cullen, Lord Gravel Jenner, Lord Hardy, Lord Kaufman, Lord Mandelson, Lord Mayor of Portsmouth, Lord McAlpine, Lord Montague of Bewley, Lord Robertson, Ludgate Communications, Madeleine McCann, Malcolm Rifkind, Margaret Thatcher, Michael Brown, Michael Colvin, Michael Forsyth, Michael Portillo, NATO, Needs Orpoint, Neil Hamilton Affair, Neil McKay, Norman Lamont, Online Publishing Company, Operation Orr, Palmyra Avenue Hove, Paul Joseph Watson, Peter Lilly, Peter Mandelson, Politics, Propaganda Matrix, Queen Victoria School, Robert Bell, Robert Kilroy Silks, Rupert Murdoch, Scallywag Magazine, Scottish Mafia, Shropshire, Social Services Director, South Africa, Speculative Society, The Crest Hotel, the pedophile ring that encircles British politics, The Sunday Herald, Thomas Hamilton, Tony Blair, Top Scottish Freemason, Truth Seeker, Veritas Party, Wrexham's, Jimmy Saville, Doorway to the Cesspit,
We're taking
posted
8
on November
minutes
3rd,
to record
2012 by
9.
Simeon.
So what did that
Jimmy
be,
Saville,
another, like...
Doorway to the Cesspit by David Icke, Saturday the 3rd of November 2012. What David Icke wrote on October 13th in a major exposure of establishment pedophilia. The UK Guardian went so far as describing one of those named as, backquote, a man who bears the same surname as a prominent conservative supporter. The report added that 2 witnesses had told the tribunal of a rich and powerful man who belonged to the alleged ring. The now defunct Scallywag magazine named Lord McAlpin, a treasurer of the Conservative Party, and also Derek Laud, a leading mover and shaker in Conservative administrations. Both were close friends of longtime Conservative Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, a close friend of Jimmy Savile. McAlpin and Laud denied the allegations. I am not saying that Margaret Thatcher knew about Saville's background, only that his friendship with her reveals his connections into the Conservative Party at the highest levels. Read more. Jimmy Saville, Doorway to the Cesspit, posted below. P.S. And before the Labour Party takes the high ground, that party is also awash with pedophiles, some of whom have operated at the highest levels, and the same with the Republicans and Democrats in the United States. Pedophilia, Satanism, and secret societies are the backquote cement that hold the one-party state together. The one-party state, many masks, but one face. Copyright David Icke, 2012. All rights reserved. The David Icke Newsletter, October 14th, 2012. Jimmy Saville. Doorway to the Cesspit. Hello all. Something of massive significance has happened in Britain in the last 2 weeks, which might have been lost on most of the rest of the world. It concerns the revelations about serial child abuse over decades by a man considered by many to be a British icon and national treasure. His name is Jimmy Saville, and the reason the significance of what is happening may have passed most people by outside the UK is that Saville was a major figure in these islands, but little known beyond them. What and who he was involved with, however, is global in nature and has the potential to expose both the staggering scale of child sexual abuse and many of the mega-famous names for whom it is a way of life. Saville was one of the first in the entertainment field known as disc jockeys, who emerged with the 1960s music and cultural explosion known as the swinging 60s. I remember him well as a kid appearing on television shows, still in black and white then, and in fact you could hardly miss him. One scene, never forgotten. He would always appear with dyed hair, mostly blonde, and highly colorful and eccentric clothing accompanied by multiple rings and other jewelry. Saville was what they called a one-off, a character, and people either loved him or deeply loathed him and thought he was seriously weird. There was little of the halfway about Jimmy Saville. He began as a disc jockey in dance halls and later managed several of them before he launched a career in the media via the legendary Radio Luxembourg in 1958 and eventually moved to the BBC, which was to be his prime public platform for decades. He was a first and last presenter of the groundbreaking music chart show Top of the Pops, which ran from 1964 to 2006, but his biggest claim to fame was the BBC show Jim'll Fix It, which he presented from 1975 to 1994. This is particularly relevant to current events because it was a program in which children wrote in to describe what they would most like to do or who they would most like to meet. The program then fixed it for the children chosen to take part. The fix could be anything from going up in a hot air balloon to meeting their favorite pop star. Saville was also famous for his charity work, which included running many marathons. He was also a volunteer porter at the Leeds General Infirmary, a volunteer and fundraiser at Stoke Mandeville Hospital with its world-famous spinal injuries unit, and he was involved with the Broadmoor High-Security Psychiatric Hospital, where many famous killers have spent their days. Saville is reported to have had his own room at both Stoke Mandeville and Broadmoor, and, it was revealed this week, he was given his own set of keys that allowed him access to many areas within Broadmoor. His public face was of a jolly and eccentric character who was famous for his trademark expensive cigar and constantly repeated catchphrases such as, "How's about that then? Now then, now then, now then, now then, goodness gracious," as it happens and backquote guys and gals. But away from the screen, Saville lived a very different life and operated in very different circles to the backquote man of the people image that he so cultivated. And it is now clear that much of his charity work was designed to give him access to children and below-age teenagers. Saville was given a hero's funeral when he died in 2011 at the age of 84, but a recent television documentary, not by the BBC, has revealed his decades of sexual abuse of underage girls, with more revelations coming out by the day. Iceberg and Tip come to mind. I was first told about the real Jimmy Savile in the late 1990s in conversations with people who had serious insider knowledge about the British royal family. And they said that Savile had been a close friend of Prince Philip until they had fallen out after a "big row." When I questioned why someone like Savile would be so close to the royal family, I was told about his pedophilia and necrophilia, sex with dead bodies, and of course, his famous voluntary work at hospitals would have given him potential access to the mortuaries. Savile himself would boast about his connections to the royals, and it was publicly acknowledged that he was a regular visitor to Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, where Princess Diana lived after her marriage ended with Prince Charles, and Highgrove, the country estate of Prince Charles. Savile told Esquire, "The thing about me is I get things done and I work deep cover. I've known the royal family for a million years." Single quote. According to the UK Daily Mail at the time of Savile's death in 2011, he was used as an intermediary in an attempt to resolve the differences between the Prince and Princess of Wales shortly before their split. Saville said that he was invited to regular meetings with the royal family because have a natural, good, fun way of going on, and we have a laugh. Would one of the world's most powerful families invite an aging disc jockey into their inner sanctum so often just because he gave them a good laugh? Or is there likely to be a far more plausible reason for their strange closeness? If have been writing since the 1990s, and a book called The Biggest Secret about the royal family's connection to Satanism and pedophilia, and about pedophile Satanists like British Prime Minister Edward Heath and President Father George Bush, just as I have told those who would listen about Jimmy Savile. But all I have had for my trouble from mainstream society is ridicule and dismissal. Their minds are too closed and too programmed to make the leap into the world as it really is.
Many more to be arrested in the future, and the plan was finally put into motion in 1952. A freighter that was
If you have enjoyed this video and the time it takes me review these documents and then bring them to you, then please like this video, share it, and leave your comments in the comment section. Please share this so as many people as possible can hear these messages, and hopefully these articles can finally be heard. As always, I will see you next time. Stay safe, stay alert, and stay suspicious.